Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new, lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's the first round of the Formula Vee National Esports Cup, bringing together some of the best sim racers, some of the best club racers from around Australia, all together for this exciting championship presented by Southern Cross Esports and Motorsport Australia. And it all kicks off here at a great club circuit, the international layout of the Silverstone circuit. We are so looking forward to this championship as it unfolds across the year, because there are some very, very talented names all through the grid. You'll be able to watch all of it live here on SimSpeed TV as well. I'm David Haynes, Scott Rankin with me, Jay Kennedy on the production. Scott, we love this style of racing in the Formula Vee.
Yeah, we do, and to bring it back to start the second season of this at what is effectively one of the cultural homes of motorsport in Britain. This is Silverstone, an old Air Force base, turned around after the Second World War, racing track made out of it. And now it's one of the big ones. It's where we go to Britain for Formula One action. It's up there, right up there in the number of venues that I want to visit internationally. This is definitely on that list. And there's a very, very good reason for it, because it hosts the British round of the Formula One.
But
the current layout...
Sebring with a British accent, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. Take it away, Dave. Take us around this layout of this one. This much, much shorter layout than the full international one.
Yeah, indeed. You can see the old pits to the right of screen there, but there's been some updates to Silverstone across the journey. It's a circuit that has never stopped evolving, and in its most recent iteration, it adds the village, the loop, and makes this the sort of club layout here, where we then, instead of taking the hairpin at 4, cut back across to the exit of Chapel Corner and then take in the Hangar Straight and Stowe. And what it really gives us is kind of a Sandown kind of feel. You've got a very fast section from club down the new pit straight through the fast turns 1 and 2. Then you flick around a little bit, you're onto the long and fast Hangar Straight, and then flowing in the connecting bit that brings you back onto the pit straight. I would say very similar to Sandown in that regard, with 2 fast straights, but also some twisty corners. And it will keep the cars super close together, because these Formula V's love to slipstream, and they get 2 opportunities around a quick lap to be able to do that. You can see some of the history, some of the full Grand Prix layout, and with respect to that, where we're racing tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually really disappointed when they redid Silverstone. I'm thoroughly a big fan of the old layout. Love the old front straight. Love the way that it built up, the different layouts and the way that it came in. You know, really, it's how I came to love sim racing, was playing some of the earlier Formula One games, and that's sort of where I grew in love with it. So when we lost that opportunity, you know, it sort of takes something away from it. But then again, we get left with what is such an important track. This is where the new stars, the new guys in the future, This is where they build themselves up in Britain. This is one of the places to go racing in Britain. You cannot do a racing around the UK trip without coming to Silverstone. And to be perfectly honest, I think we're always lucky anytime we get to take racing here. I like this layout. I really do. A lot of opportunity. You mentioned it already. Overtaking. It's always in the water. We're going to have the opportunity to go racing. We're going to have the opportunity for side-by-side racing. I think this is actually going to be a really, really good layout to showcase the uniqueness of the Formula Vee formula, the essence, really, if you will. So, yeah, I think we're set for a good one here tonight.
Absolutely, and this is the rest of the calendar. You get a good look at it. We're going to some of these smaller, compact, shorter layout club circuits throughout the year as well. It's the British ones, but then, of course, great Australian representation with Sandown and Phillip Island, two circuits that we know race well with these Formula V cars and represent at the state level of Australian motorsport. And then some other great international circuits in here. A few UK ones, Akiyama in Japan, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, very, very interesting. And I am going to pencil in September 13 for what's probably going to be the wildest round, because the classic boot of Watkins Glen is super, super high speed. It means no bus stop chicane. It just means a flat out run from turn 1 up through the S's and towards the outer loop. All of them looking great. So mark that in your calendar. 8 rounds for this season. And for tonight, mark in your diary, we got 3 races coming up, 20 minutes each, and race 2 definitely looks like that's where you can schedule the fireworks display with a reverse top 20. That will make it so interesting. They're just wrapping up that qualifying now.
Yeah, and one of the big things that we talked about at length last season was the ability to come through and make sure that you scored points in that reverse grid race. It was the big undoing of a lot of drivers up and down that championship order, Dave. And I mean, you would have experienced it in real life, but it's just any time that there's a shake-up, any time that there's an alteration to the order, you've got to think things through. You've got to be smart. And Josh Burden is going to give us the pole app here. This is going to be a ride in patience. It's not going to be high speed, but that's also where all the fun is. It's about making sure that you're making every correct decision. This is probably going to be his second lap of the tour as well. Keep speed up. Look at the minimal steering wheel input. When you're coaching young drivers, it's all about minimizing, turning that steering wheel. It's about balancing. It's about making sure that he's getting into that apex. Look at how much speed he tries to carry through there, all the way out to the left-hand side. Only a little short run. Then we're through the cut short section of the track, out and over the curbs, using all of the available runoff, all of the available space. Keep that momentum up. Down underneath the Johnny Walker Bridge, down the hangar straight, gonna get to Stowe. Then you've only got the Vale chicane and club to finish the lap. A lot of time to breathe here, a lot of time to think about yourself. What's he gonna have for dessert? What's he gonna have to celebrate perhaps a good victory? Oh no, never mind. We're here into Stowe. Keep that momentum up. Leave it in 4th gear. You've absolutely got to be brave down there. The rear end of this thing, it wants to wander, it wants to swing around on you. Now the Vale chicane. Set it up. Back to 3rd gear. One of what, 2-3 gear shifts throughout the lap. Carry as much speed as you can all the way out. Don't touch the sausage curb on the inside. Don't touch the sausage curb on the outside. Don't touch the other sausage curb on the inside. And that's a lap from the international circuit.
He had 25 other drivers to beat out, but Burden had 1/10 over the rest of them. Super, super close through this field in that qualifying session without any drafting. When they get into the race situation, it all boils down to racecraft, to timing, and maybe a little bit of lady luck as well. Let's look at that grid. Joshua Burden, we just saw what his pole lap looked like. Inch perfect, trying to maximize the speed everywhere he could. He starts on the front row with Sam Chapman in 2nd place, 0.111 of a second behind, but then the times are so close through the rest of the field here because it is thousandths of a second back to James Russo, and then 10 thousandths back to Sean McKenzie. The row behind there, even closer with Caleb Belak and Kyle Ridley, 5th and 6th. 7th and 8th is Glenn Riddle and Brody Watts. And behind them, Cameron Edwards and Lee Partridge. Finally seeing a bit of timing gap in these super close qualifying times to the top 10. And Cameron Dawes and Trevor Hearn not far behind that. Got Ben Breyer and Franz Estabauer, the row behind. And Tony Baker, Kurt Woodward, some teammates are on that row there. Thor Toller and Matt Anderson, 17th and 18th. 19th and 20th, Stephen Butcher and Matthew Harriott, and you want to stay in that top 20 the way the racing is going to play out with the 20 invert coming up. Ray Oliver and Brendan Nealon will be looking to move forward. They've got Liam Caplice, Jordan Billack, Keegan Sutton-Baker, and Damien Spinks starting behind them. There's just the grid for the first of 3 races. From here on out, it's about your finishing order and then that top 20 invert. Gridding up now for 20 minutes of race 1. What do you think we're going to see other than drivers using all of the allowed track limits at Chapel?
Well, yeah, track limits I think is going to be on the menu tonight. I don't think anytime you come to Silverstone, track limits really isn't on the menu because there's so many different ways you can exceed them. You can exceed them at Stowe, you can exceed them at Vale, you can exceed them at Club, just about everywhere right around the lap. Cutting and curbing, making sure that you're hanging on to the momentum. I'm actually going to sit in the camp of coming onto the big straights. I'm actually going to back up the corners a little bit, make sure that I'm setting myself up so I'm getting as much draft as I possibly can, so that when I pull the head out from that draft, I'm going to go sliding past that car directly ahead of me. Optimally, I want to do it just far enough down the straight that obviously there's going to be little to no room for them to come back at me. So a little bit of patience on whether you do the moves. It's going to be an exciting night. A lot of differences, a lot of new faces out here tonight, Dave. I think this is going to be an intense one just to kick us off.
You know, 3 races in the progressive grid. You can't afford for any of the races to crash you out or send you to the back of the pack. You've got to just keep chipping away at scoring points. Make sure at the end of this race 1, you're inside of that top 20 for the reverse top 20 into race 2, and then finishing well in race 2 will set you well to put a cherry on the top of your cake in race 3, as that is just a pure progressive grid there. Most of the field ready for the standing start, always a challenge, and the only time you'll see first and second gear get used in these Formula Vs here around this layout. Be plenty of blue smoke in the air from these air-cooled Formula Vs, all of them perfectly equal on the iRacing simulator. It's down to our drivers and our racers for 3 as they rev. The green flag drops, we get underway, and it is a good launch from the front row. Maybe the pressure initially is on 3rd place. Cold tires to start them off will warm up as we go on.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about on lap number 1, is cold tires and chaos at turn 1 on lap 1. Didn't take long before 2 cars got tangled up. Couple cars that I thought qualified a little bit further down than I would have expected them. Number 1, Ray Oliver. Number 2, Lee Partridge. Expect them to cut their way through early.
They're open wheeler cars, and when those wheels tangle, it does not end well. There is no rubbing is racing in these style of cars, and you can see Sean McKenzie go a little wide in that weird section of track that brings them back onto the hangar straight, and another driver around there as well, and it's Brody Watts, so not how you want to kick off
Spinks.
20 minutes of race number 1. Up front, Sam Chapman and the pole sitter Joshua Burden back into 2nd. McKenzie still running in 3rd. But I think the smart drivers and the quick drivers up front here will know that leading the pack isn't necessarily the way to go when there's going to be a lot of laps to this race on the short Silverstone layout.
Yeah, something that we want to remember as well as we come into Vale for the first time. From last season, there were breaks in the pack. That's critical. So when I'm looking at race 1, I'm looking to make sure that I know where those packs are forming. If somebody starts bobbling, if somebody starts squabbling a little bit too hard, I've got to get through there and I've got to get aggressive as soon as you possibly can. Like Franz Estabauer is getting railroaded by the 2 Pulsar racing cars.
Yeah, easy to spot in the matte blue, and there's another driver up the inside of him as they head towards turn 1 that ought to be pretty well flat out, but if you're offline, it looks like it's extra scrub from him, and you can see these world's fastest bathtubs really are quick through 1 and 2 here, and the slipstreaming is massive down both straights. Car off, is it Merritt? Oh, Riddle.
Yeah, so there was contact there, and I think Cam Edwards actually said something on the radio that he was actually wound up in that. And look at all the smoke coming through as those air-cooled engines really wind themselves up. So he's gone from 5th, I think, back to about 20th. So a lot of loss there from Glenn Riddell. And Esteban is still going backwards. Some mistakes. He's still settling into sim racing as Esteban, still getting himself up to speed. And I think he's got raw pace, but he's also got to find his feet within the sim racing world.
It's either struggling to find a gear or he had a slowdown penalty to serve, and it really cost him down the hangar straight. This is up front. Burden, the pole sitter, back to the lead of the race past Sam Chapman. Caleb Bellac has made a couple moves forward. They are making contacts behind, and there's a few drivers off, and didn't pick exactly who it was.
Ben Breyer. Yeah, so Ben Breyer was 3 wide. I think it was with Thortala, and I didn't pick the other driver, but he was 3 wide. Might have been Tony Baker, might have been Matthew Harriott. It was one of those 2 drivers, but he was 3 wide. He was in the middle. He just got pinched from both sides.
Changing in the lead up front as well. Sam Chapman goes to the lead. Here's a big move from Bellac, who's been moving up and forward through the field. Burden trying to play the sensible thing, trying to play the percentages here. We've got Sean McKenzie with a bit of a Braun GP tribute that he runs on his real-world Formula Vee, sitting in 4th there, just trying to go along with the leaders. They've been caught by Partridge, Hearn, and Cam Edwards, who we knew were super, super quick last time out. A lot of smoke in the air, though, behind with that cut through onto the hangar straight. Multiple cars coming together.
Yeah, I think it was Liam Caplice and Tony Baker actually got together and come around. So I was just watching that. That was just coming on of Chapel onto the hangar straight, and yeah, they just brushed wheels, trying to carry as much momentum as they possibly could, trying to use all sections of the road. They'd be silly if they didn't.
So here's what happened. 2 wide. It's almost a little bit downhill. The only elevation change you'll ever find, but the wheels tag, the cars are sideways, and 4 or 5 cars get really either damaged or held up in that.
It's aggressive. And remember what I said about pack breakaways and when the packs start to split up? Well, there's 2 reasons that actually happens. Cam Edwards goes through and sets up a phenomenal lap. That's an absolute stonker. Although, he set that stonker of a lap and then been immediately handed a drive-through penalty for contact on lap 2. So, all the pace for naught when you get yourself tangled up. What did I say? Consistency, staying out of trouble? Yeah, it's back. It's Formula V's, baby.
They started to condense and coalesce in this top 7. And the track limits there, that's all fair track. You can cut across part of that motorcycle curbing in Chapel, even though it looks a little odd. And it's for this nose in.
Apologies, Dave. Go ahead, mate. You can just see that that Cam got in there just a fraction too hot. He just stuck the nose probably somewhere he wasn't expecting, and yeah, I think slam dunk penalty. Race controller got that one right.
Yep, indeed, pretty plainly there. Side by side for the lead though. Cut back here. Caleb Bellac looking to hold on to the lead around the outside, then on the inside into Club. And it's going to bring them side by side onto the pit straight. It presents a buffet to the drivers behind of where they can slipstream. They can pick and choose anyone, and it sees us go 3 wide for the lead as Cam Edwards serves his drive-through penalty. And looking to pick off 2 for 1, Sam Chapman back to the lead of the race, still 3 wide up front. The drivers behind Hearn, Partridge, and McKenzie are almost watching, waiting, expecting this to not be sustainable for another 15 minutes, 10 laps.
Yeah, I mean, look at the intensity it's already going at. Huge break in that pack now as well. I think we've got, top 6 cars, and then there's the second pack. There was a tiny breakaway. I think it was, there were 2 cars that was sort of attempting to bridge the gap, and I think that's now gone the other way. So these guys have got to sort it out and got to start working together, or else they're going to get swamped.
How about 4 wide for the lead of the race as they come into Stowe from the hangar straight? Joshua Burden goes back to the lead of the race. I don't think even Arca at Daytona can go 4 wide that consistently, that often. And Bellac, easy to spot in purple, thinking about making it 3 wide again in towards Vale and Club. Doesn't happen. Burden leads at the moment. They are playing a quite risky game in this top 6 at the moment, though. An exciting one, though.
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. And doesn't it just harken back to round 1 of the last season at Phillip Island. What were we, 5 wide for the win in race number 1? These
It could have been 6. It could have been 6 at the line.
Yeah, I think they measured it out, and there was about 3 millimeters left over for them to squeeze an extra car in. So, of course, Formula V drivers, they do what they do best. They squeeze cars where they absolutely shouldn't. Yeah, racing's been phenomenal so far, and there's time coming out. I just saw a purple sector from somebody. Oh, replay. Here we go. This will be the Breyer incident.
3 wide. The tyres are already locked together, and that's what happens. And gets yeeted, I think is a technical term these days. He got really, really properly launched in that. Look at Burden trying to play tactical, trying to go to the inside, not help out the 2 drivers going side by side behind, which tempts Sam Chapman to get down the inside of both of them. Burden's trying to play them off against each other in his rear view mirrors. Be a little careful of those track limits though. And one other thing to point out, if you do get a drive-through penalty here, unlike the full Grand Prix layout where the pit lane speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, on this club layout, it's just 55. So it is a decent penalty to cop a drive-through penalty here.
Yeah, I really like the way that Burton's actually maneuvering that car about as well. Something that he's doing is he's trying to offer all 3 lanes as much support, even support as he possibly can. As soon as he sees one driver starting to pull fractionally ahead, he'll go over and offer the other 2 cars a little bit of assistance. He's basically saying, I know that I'm going to pull away by forcing you guys to fight each other. You don't pull away in Formula V. So he's having a crack, trying something different. He's got now half a second. He's close.
This is the 9th place pack where they're equally close and ferocious as they are for the race lead. Oliver and then Watson Anderson side by side there. You spot Riddell in his team paints of red and yellow. Oh, so easy to pick out of a pack. And there's Estabauer round the outside there in the giant car.
Yeah, Sam Chapman just picked up a slowdown penalty, so he's trying to clear that and maintain contact with this lead pack. Can confirm it's now out of the way, so he'll be back up to speed here. But that was heavily, heavily costly because he started the lap in 2nd place. I think he's just about barely hung onto it, just about. So he's right on the fringe of losing that one. Can you believe we're only halfway through race 1?
I was just thinking, this is a very long 20 minutes, just with the density of excitement and how quick the laps come around at about 1:20 rather than, you know, these are kind of 3-minute laps around Bathurst in a car like this, a little quicker than that. But the average speeds are not high in Formula V's. The action per mile is ridiculous the way we're going at the moment. And you're seeing that you do need to be careful with staying on the track in that inverted chapel as you come onto the hangar straight from the opposite side you normally would.
Yeah, and remember the 2 guys that we talked about pro-race, about starting a little bit deeper in the pack? Have a look who's bought his way into that top group of what is now 5 cars, down from 6. Lee Partridge, what a phenomenal race. Started, what, 10th-ish? 12th. No, it was Trevor Hearn as well who started a fair way back. So Lee Partridge from 10th. Ray Oliver from 20th to 11th as well. He is starting to pull along that 2nd pack, starting to go for it. But I just barely think Sam Chapman dropped the draft by not very much. So if somebody makes a mistake at the back end of this pack, or somebody balks someone, checks them up, there's an opportunity for him to buy back in. But he's right on the cusp of losing them permanently.
Suddenly just a little bit more real estate among our leaders. The cars you're watching here, Bellac and Burden, 1st and 2nd, and then Mackenzie in 3rd, just a couple car lengths back off them under pressure from Hearn and Partridge, as you mentioned. Chapman trying to buy into it, but almost falling back into the grip of the next group. Kurt Woodward and Thortalla running 7th and 8th are only just ahead of Brody Watts, and that group in 9th we were looking at where they seem to be pulling each other along rather than hindering each other. Doesn't always look it, but that's just how ridiculously strong the slipstream is once you get into 4th gear in these cars.
Yeah, and that's it. And, you know, it's the softly approach, right? You're always faster when you're using that swap drafting style approach, the slingshot effect, if you will. But that means that race car drivers have to work together, and if there's something that race car drivers are not known for, it's working together. So, oh well, we ended up with a Formula V race like this one.
Now I'm looking at it again, I think it's track limits on the apex, not on the exit, as they come onto the hangar straight that seems to be tripping the drivers up. So that's one to look out for. How much dirt do they flick up from the apex in that right-hander? leading 5 on your screen will be 6 more laps in this race number 1, which, does still feel like plenty of time for everyone to position themselves and think about being the first race winner of the season.
Can we say for the first time ever at the Formula Vee Australia Championships, this is a little bit sedentary, a little bit calm, cool, collected? Now that I've said that,
What are you trying to do?
You know, it's commentator's curse, Dave. You know, I just had to say it. If I didn't say it, things were never going to kick off.
Save it for round 2 or 3, buddy. It's looking good. I like the way it's playing out. Burden and Bellac in very, very close quarters for first and second. Trevor Hearn's gotten himself that 3rd place now, and the chance that the top 5 might compress as we go on here. And the 7th and 8th place cars of Tuller and Woodward have now been taken care of by Watts and Riddle. There's drama elsewhere. 2 cars off the road, and in fact, a barrel rolling from one of them, from Matt Anderson, who clearly has damage on his car.
I was about to say that car's not turning very well. That's painful to watch. And yeah, it looks to be that curbing on the right-hand side, that's completely fine. So this will tell a story here on the Motorsports Australia Esports replay. It's tight. I mean, this is heading down into Village and the loop. You know, it's about getting down the inside. This is where you set up the lap, rotating the car nicely, setting it up. There was clearly a car to the outside there. A little bit of a mistake. And, well, he's landed all 4 wheels upright. So, what do you reckon, Dave? I think he deserves a 7 from the gymnastics judges.
I think an 8, because the degree of difficulty was high and he did stick the landing.
High.
So that's what really comes to matter. Hearn in 3rd, boxed in a little bit behind the leaders, looking to back up and cross over under on the exit, get to the driver's right-hand side. The inside for the most unique corner on this shortened layout. Nothing like any of the corners on the full Grand Prix layout. This right-hander where they then track out across the curb of the motorcycle circuit.
Yeah, if you've ever wondered why there's curbing on the left-hand side of the road there as you're coming through the corner, yeah, this layout, that's why. It's tricky, right? Because the curbing's always going the opposite direction as well. It's not set up for these cars heading in this direction, so, I mean, they're riding it okay. There's probably a few spines shaken up out there. I think Lewis Hamilton might be complaining of back pain if he was in a Formula Vee.
Potentially. This is our top 5, still running with relative aplomb. Sam Chapman in this little no man's land between that top 5 and the next group of cars where Watts, Riddle, Tuller, Oliver and Woodward are. France Estebauer with Ben Breyer, Brendan Nolan. I'm interested about the group actually in 19th, 20th and 21st, because with a 20-place reverse grid coming up, 20th goes to pole, 21st starts in 21st. It is a big, big difference of outcome based on just one position on track. Baker has 19th. We're looking very closely at the nose of Kyle Ridley. And there's Cam Edwards after his drive-through penalty in 21st. Getting into that 20 would be sweet redemption.
Could you imagine him, though? He's hot, he's mad, he's steaming. Although Cam Edwards actually keeps a really cool, calm demeanor when he's racing. Actually, he does a phenomenal job of that. But then he's got to turn it around, and everyone's in his rearview mirror. That might change a few things up. That'll put him in a phenomenal spot for race number 3 as well, and for round points overall. Again, keep your eyes on Ray Oliver, up to 10th, phenomenal start. Chapman is slowly bleeding back to Brodie Watts and Glenn Riddell. They took about 3/4 of a second out of him on that last lap, so they will catch him at some point. It's just a matter of when, because they're just lapping so much faster. The problem is, how much do they squabble? When do they push hard? There's 3 minutes left on the clock. It's about being in line to pick up his Sam Chapman slipstream at exactly the right time, and I think the right time is right now.
Yeah, 3 more laps by the looks of it. Bellac has just a tiny look at Joshua Burden. 3rd and 4th right in place here, as well as Mackenzie goes to the inside of turn 2, becomes the outside into the next right-hander. Partridge closes up as well. There was a couple laps there where they were sort of all covered by about a second and a half. Now they're all covered by just half a second, and you couldn't fit another car length in there.
and they realize it. They're watching that in sim clock. They're aware of what those times are. That's a really, really good shot. That tells you what the gap is across our first 11 drivers. Then that next group in behind, 13th and 14th, 15th just coming through Chapel right now, right at the back end of the shot. That's what covers our top 15 drivers. It's less than the hangar straight. It's about 3/4 of the hangar straight, and that's over a 20-minute distance. They're just not able to sprint apart from each other. It's about never, ever checking up in a major fashion. So watch these guys. They'll learn different field of drivers. They'll learn at every single race. They're learning from those guys around them. They'll pick up a few more tenths here. They'll understand how close they can get to some of their compatriots. Some compatriots, you're a lot more trusting. Get right in there. Stick your wheels. Just about grinding wheels with them, and you're completely ready to go. Other guys, you want to leave about an extra foot or so worth of movement. So it's all learning all the time.
2 laps to go, and it's still our top 5 group in contention for this win. Burden leading at the moment. Belak looking down the inside of him, and then Mackenzie sitting in third. Belak looks like he's gonna get that race lead away, but as they keep going side by side through that corner, it does slow them up a little bit. Belak forced to drop back into second. Drivers being careful not to cut too much of that apex on the inside of the corner, because that would absolutely sink your chances of the race win. If you picked up a slowdown right now, you'd be back in that no man's land that Sam Chapman is in, where he's got the speed, the race speed of the leaders, but he's just not on board the train.
Check this out. Watch him fan out. Just about 3 wide on the run down here. Into Stowe as well. Look at how close these guys are. The other car on the outside gets a little bit of run. He's got the longer way around the corner. Means he can carry more momentum. Now it sends it down the inside. Who's going to be brave into the Vale chicane? We're running out of time. Oh, there we go.
Burden and Mackenzie tag wheels. Burden backwards. Mackenzie with suspension damage. Now it might be just 3 as they're going to start the final lap of this race. Now Belak with a handy little lead as things kicked off behind him over 2nd and 3rd place. Partridge and Hearn now in that position. This is the battle for 20th where they're going off the road. Baker and Harriet. Baker holding on to that 20th for the moment. It is all happening on the final lap of the race, but Belak might be just getting away with this one tidily. More dramas.
Yeah, right down the tail end of the field, right around that 20th spot. Sam Chapman's the big winner in all of those arguing over positions because he's bought himself a ticket. Now he's just barely in the slipstream. I think time will run out, but he's back in that slipstream.
Obviously major suspension damage on the front right for Mackenzie and his burden and the problems that he's got. But on the back straight, down the hanger straight for the final time, Caleb Belak, I think, is sitting pretty where he just needs to not make any mistakes. No one's going to be able to catch him if he just follows the perfect racing line around. He was always in the leading group in the party, and it's fallen his way.
I think Ray Oliver's just lost the rear end coming into Stowe for the final time as well. So he's going to drop a few spots in his final lap. He's going to go from 8th, I think, back to about 10, 12th or so. But yeah, what a win from Caleb Belak. That was just awesome racing. They were going so close for so long. You were just wondering whether or not it was going to kick on. And, well, it did kick on just shy of the end.
Tough racing on the international layout of Silverstone, and it was oh so close at the moment. Cam Edwards sitting in the 20th would go to pole for race number 2 coming up shortly. Joshua Burden in 21st, how much he would like to sit on pole once again, but I think has too much damage, is just trying to bring it home to the checkered flag. Here we go, Caplice, Russo, Matthew Harriet just behind. And there is a taste of what a photo finish can look like around here, with Russo, I think, just holding on to that one. Cam Edwards, after his penalty, gets 20th. Burden, after the contact, on the outside of that top 20 in 21st.
And a cracking race. I mean, that's Silverstone in a nutshell. That's what we want when Formula One comes here, isn't it? Racing to be a little bit close like that. I mean, detrimental. You can't really do that after aerodynamics, but Formula V's don't have that problem. What a race. Caleb Belak and Lee Partridge as well, from 10th on the grid to 2nd. He'll start out at 19th for race number 2, but that's a phenomenal drive. A little bit disappointing for Ray Oliver in the last little piece there. Fought his way all the way up into 8th, had a really, really strong drive. Glenn Riddell was such a show, big showing of last season, gets home in 5th. Sam Chapman, good drives. Trevor Hearn was strong early on last season as well. So many big names in that top 10.
And there's no time to rest for the wicked, as they say, because we're straight in to race number 2, and you can see that top 20, they're inverted for the grid of race number 2, and it means your front row is Cam Edwards and Matthew Harriott. See the drivers who finished on the lead lap and those who retired. They're counting down, they're revving, they're ready for another 20 minutes of race 2, and it's Cam Edwards and Matthew Harriott on the front row. Your winners from race number 1 with a lot of work to do to work their way through a difficult field, but a bad shift from Cam Edwards, and he gets swallowed up in the run towards turn 1. 4 wide, 2 to his right, 1 to his left. There he is, stuck in the middle with us, and he drops backwards from the pole to 6th place already. They're not even at the first corner, but there's dramas behind.
There's always going to be dramas when you're trying to feed in there on stone cold tyres. Everyone's a little bit unsettled because hot tyres coming out of the previous race. They felt they knew what the grip level was. Everyone's checking up. Different drivers ahead of you. Different swarm of bodies heading down into turn 1 for this race. And another car off as they come onto the hangar straight.
Tough to pick which car it is because there's many of them, but I did see wheel-to-wheel contact maybe between Merritt and Mackenzie early on. That's James Rosso trying to just get out of the way, trying to survive. For the race lead, Liam Caplice moving forward. He's side by side with Matthew Harriott and will have the inside into the off-camber Stowe corner. When you turn in shallow, it does compromise how much speed you can carry through. The drivers pointing for the late apex often get a great run off into the braking zone. That's a much bigger braking zone here at Vale. It's top 3 at the moment of Caplice, Harriott and Ridley, but Edwards, he's found his gears now and he's working his way back forward.
Yeah, this will be the incident down at turn number 1. Look at how fanned out they get. Look at everyone dicing, slicing. Garrett, get the feeling somebody slid for a little bit of track position that wasn't necessarily there. Chopped across the nose. I mean, that feels to me that's just a lap 1 incident, and then there's a follow-up couple of incidents. It's not really much anyone could have done there. That's racing. And if you don't leave the space, well, as Fernando Alonso says, you must always leave the space.
All the time, you've got to leave it to space. That's correct. So a couple of drivers to the new Silverstone pit building, but not for the reasons they would want, but for damage or no drive-through penalties just yet. But if we do see some, I wouldn't be massively surprised. So here's Caplice. Harriott pulls out on him, and Kyle Ridley pulls out on the both of them. 3 wide for the race lead, with a lot of racing still to go in this race number 2, but there's no invert from race 2 in towards race number 3. Ridley nearly loses the rear, somehow holds onto it. Harriott loses his momentum. Every position you gain here in this race will help you in race number 3, and we're seeing some of those drivers who are strong in race number 1 starting to buy into this leading group as well. Hey, Oliver, you mentioned making some progress.
I'm really, really impressed there with Liam Caplice. He pushed the boundaries there on Matthew Harriott. He really put down, I want to get a race victory here. I want to push hard. I want to go as hard as I possibly can. Love it from Liam Caplice. That was phenomenally close racing, and he pulled it off to perfection.
So the race 1 winner started 20th on the grid, and you can see his progress already in just the short amount of time we've had in this race number 2. He's picking them off as he goes. Belak looked like he got another one just then on Kurt Woodward it was, yep.
The next one on the track as well is going to be Franz Esterbauer, and he's going to range up on them. How good's the livery, though? That's a Pac-Man livery on the side of things. He's throwing it back. Real classic one there. Was that a lift? Was that a lift from the car behind him? Matt Anderson and Kurt Woodward? Sorry, my apologies.
I think so. He's just looking to stay in position with some of these quick drivers and move up forward with them. So you have first drive-through penalty, and it's for Brendan Nealon. I might see a couple more. We will wait and see on that one. So Ridley leads at the moment. 12 more laps in this race number 2, which then really sets the tone for the race number 3 as well. It's just all of your work will pay dividends from this point onwards. Now we're past that invert. Top 7 together, and it's almost a top 11. Looks like Edwards on doors for an all-cam battle in third and fourth.
Can I just say about Kyle Ridley, driver that really, really loved the Volkswagen Jetta just before it departed the iRacing platform. The slower the car, the bigger the grin he'll have on his face. So Formula Vee, you bet your bottom dollar that thing goes from ear to ear.
Let's get in one of those kids' pedal cars then. Would absolutely love to watch some of that. We're looking backwards from the race leader at Caplice and Edwards. Edwards looking to get another spot now up into second. Well positioned at the inside of Stowe, but there is a bit of off-camber there, and you see he's not able to carry the same speed as Caplice has around the outside. Now Ridley kind of swaps who he's giving the slipstream to. He's playing it clever from the lead and watching what's happening in his mirrors and being able to have just a little hand of God effect on it.
Come on, Cameron Edwards. Tough race one. This is your opportunity, son. Get out there. Get in there. And look at this. The two buddies, the two guys that wanted to really get this happening and put it together. Ray Oliver and Cameron Edwards. Could you imagine the sheer delight that these two drivers are having? They love the Formula Vee. They love these cars so much. They wanted to get a bunch of drivers that race these things in real life on the sim to do it more often. And they're right there fighting it out. Yes, this is Formula Vee action at its finest.
It is the slowest couple of corners on the lap. It's the two right-handers here, and it's Vale. Those are your only real third gear corners. The rest you accelerate up into fourth of 4 gears. It's flat out. Can have a look at the replay of what happened to Lee Partridge. So I suspect we're about to see weird little straight line incident, just the tires touching and it's spinning Lee Partridge off. Up front here, everyone wants just a little bit of track position at this midpoint of the race, it seems. Caplice leading, so he's managed to move forward, but there is no certainty and no security in the lead of this race because you give away a slipstream and help to those behind. He's gone in deep to Vale, compromised his run off club where it's all flat out onto the pit straight, and turns 1 and 2 seem flat out in these cars as well.
Oh, bravery from Cam Edwards. Opted to go for the inside. Is he going to take it 3 wide? You bet your bottom dollar he is.
More dramas for Franz Esterbauer, who can be so strong in these cars. 3 wide leads to some dramas in turn 1. 3 cars come together, multiple around, make that 4. I feel like an auctioneer as I count it up. But Ray Oliver, Stephen Butcher, they have come off very, very much second best from all of that. So has Liam Caplice. That car will not turn the way he wants it to. He's trying to turn right. The car's going left.
Yeah, some message damage. There's 4 drivers involved in that one that have all got mechanical black flags. So this is the run. 3 wide down into turn number 1. It was the car that was just in behind him. I think it was Kyle Ridley, or it was either Kyle Ridley or it was Ray Oliver. Is it the 8 on the side? I think it's Ray Oliver. Just went in there and just got a fraction too close. Wasn't expecting the lift off. And that's what's kicked all of that off.
Now, on the live pictures, Belak goes around. So the race 1 winner getting just a little tap on the rear and looping it around. Would have gotten away with more without damage, I think. There is Liam Caplice. Is he just...
He's stuck.
Wow.
He's stuck. Yeah, there's a tow request there in action. He was trying to get out there. He's just patient. The car, obviously, like you said, car's driving left when he wants it to go right, so there's not much he can really do. And Fulatolo was, I think, just an innocent bystander who was just on his way through turn 1, turn 2 complex, and everything unfolded ahead, so nothing he could really do. That's racing.
I mean, we want them to race so close. They do. It's a car and circuit that encourage it. Occasionally, one little mistake from one driver cascades through the field without good and proper reaction times. So this is the leaders now going side by side. Ridley with great momentum onto the hanger straight. So they are side by side. Matthew Harriott gets to pick who he wants to slipstream off. No worries about wake turbulence here, following too closely on takeoff.
I'm just thinking that these guys are actually attempting to work together here. I think Cam Edwards is actually being really happy to run second fiddle here. Matthew Harriott, they're looking to see if they can pull away from the 2 cars behind them. Because if they leave this a couple of extra laps before they go fighting, all of a sudden the worst you can finish is third. But that hasn't really worked. Cam Edwards fallen back into the clutches.
Almost the halfway point then, with 8 laps done, 8 more to go, making it a 16-lap race in just 20 minutes. They really do get around this short club-style circuit very, very quickly, and I think that's good, and I'm glad we're going to have plenty more of that in the rest of the calendar as well, on some, real sort of state-level club layout kind of circuits across this 8-round championship.
Was it Barber Motorsport Park we're actually off to in a couple of weeks' time? I think that's probably going to be a highlight of the season, because we're really going to see some elevation change at Barber, and those curbs are actually quite tricky to navigate. Just watching Cam Edwards as well, the car's pushing coming off onto the hangar straight. I actually think there may be a small amount of damage or something not quite right, because the car's just not turning the way that he wants it to at the moment.
We had 7 or 8 cars in the hunt for the race win in race 1. In race 2, it's slightly fewer, and there's more dramas for Dawes and Baker. Baker looks like he's got some damage, and Sam Chapman has no speed on the hangar straight either.
Still kicking off in the background as well. So I think it's just, it's all just kicked off, and then everyone's just trying to regather themselves and get themselves settled back down and sort of test their momentum and test where they're up to. Climbed over the curb. Was that Glenn Riddell? That's Tony Baker, not Glenn Riddell. Yeah, okay.
Super early. Bonk. Yeah, it's just, you're in that precarious spot there where you're on the racing line, and whatever you do, whether you go backwards, whether you go forwards, there's a chance someone goes that way and collects you. And there's a lot of engine braking on the rear axle. It's a very short wheelbase, and so it is easy to carry fractionally too much speed and have the rear step on you just like that.
It's a different style of driving, and it's actually really, really good as well, because it teaches patience. It teaches not to go too hot into the corners. It teaches that really slow in, fast out style of driving, and that's critical, Dave. I mean, you'd be able to attest to this definitely a lot more than me. If you don't have that proper style of driving from the lowest formulas, which is why the Formula Vee is so important, you're just never going to progress. You're never going to be able to take it further, because always your first instinct is to take it as deep as you possibly can into the corner, and then you're trying to point and turn the car. That's just not going to work for you in the bulk of cars, so it's a really, really good opportunity to teach at a lower formula.
The flow in the mid-corner speed is absolutely king in these cars, especially when, if you're behind someone, you then hook onto their slipstream. So how much speed you carried into the corner, exactly when you picked up the throttle, doesn't matter. Your straight line speed's dependent on the driver in front of you. What you can control is your mid-corner speed for your lap time. We're on board with Kurt Woodward in 5th, Brodie Watts and Cam Edwards. There's about a 1.5 seconds between Edwards in 3rd and Harriet in 2nd, who's almost just lost touch with Kyle Ridley, seeing a bit more fragmentation at the lead of this race just for the moment. So Harriet needs to pull out all the stops to get up to Kyle Ridley, or they're going to catch him and someone else is going to do it. There's Ridley all the way to the left, then in orange Matthew Harriet, and then 3rd, 4th, 5th in a little blur. You can see the lead has not gotten away big time, but also has just almost broken the slipstream.
I think he has. I think he actually has broken the slipstream. So unless these guys behind can actually use the slingshot to get a little bit closer, Kyle's going to disappear off into the sunset. They've got to work together. Cannot squabble whatsoever, or it's over and done with. That's Tony Baker as well off on the pit lane entry. Just slowly trying to get his way back into the pit lane. There's also another car, I believe it's James Russo, on the hangar straight. He is just crawling. He's got nothing left that he can do. He's doing all he possibly can, but great job making sure that he's all the way out of the way.
I'm assuming you can break a drive shaft, either one side or both, and I think the way the differential works, breaking one would kill all the drive. So that kind of seems like maybe what you've got for some of those drivers is a big hit at the rear, snapping part of the diff or drive shaft or something. Looking back, this is for Esteban. He's on the right, but it's those other drivers. Yeah, Russo. Oh yeah, that'd do it, wouldn't it? That rear left, that would do it.
Wow, was that another commentator getting something right? That doesn't happen every day. I tell you what, the V8 Veterans crew.
I throw a lot of darts at a lot of dartboards. So.
Look, if the dartboard is the size of the living room wall, eventually I'm going to hit it. It may take all day.
3 wide, Matthew Harriott, who was in second, getting swallowed up now. Brodie Watts to second place, Cam Edwards to third. Harriott wants a little bit of that back, but as they went 3 wide into Stowe corner, he did get a little bit swallowed up. On board from the perspective of Kurt Woodward, you see his gear shifts and see all of his sights, hear all of his sounds.
I was actually just going to say, can we stay with this shot just a little while longer? This is critical for the viewers that are watching along at home. Just watch what he does in these situations, because when we first picked him up, he had an opportunity to go 2 wide through a corner. That would have checked up both his and the other car that was just ahead of him's momentum, which would have been Matthew Harriott. Now, because he's been a little bit patient, he's built up some momentum, he's set himself up. He might get down the inside here, but he also might back it out. It's racecraft. When do you go for this move? Can you hang on to the spot? Look at this. Has the inside. He's not going to have the momentum on exit. Backs out because he's just never going to be able to complete the move. He'll get down there. He'll get it 3/4 of the way done, but then he'll be forced to back out anyway. His best opportunity is get down here, get to the end of the straight, then look to go around the outside of Harriott. That's where his best opportunity is. That's race brain.
We saw fireworks in the leading group towards the end of race number 1 as well, and you'd keep that well in consideration. You can see Burton just behind, Bellac and Anderson just behind them. Kyle Ridley's getting away to a good lead, but we're going to see a little bit more of Russo and Esteban. This is a different angle, and it's gonna tell us something. So
he was forced into a bad decision, I think, that day. Like there was no good decision left to him, and just the car that was in behind him should have. Whoa! Never mind.
Contact between Harriott and Edwards, and Harriott's waiting for Edwards, but they've both lost out late on in this race and dropped a handful of positions. Like Bellac comes flying through, and Matt Anderson is just about with him.
And then you're stuck the whole way down this straight. Now they're going to tie in. Matt's having a... These guys are actually talking to each other on the in-sim radio. They're saying, come on, boys. Let's work together. We can catch them. Just you and me. Let's go for it. So a lot of pumping up between the drivers. If this is round number 1, can you imagine when we get to round 5? I think this season we're going to see a different side of these Formula V drivers.
Well, there's points paid at the end of this race, and it sets the grid for race number 3. So picking up a couple positions, very, very well advised. It's a second trip to the lolly shop for 1 price.
Nobody ever told me I can get 2 trips to the lolly shop for 1 price. Is there 3 tonight? Maybe I need to go lolly shopping with David Haynes more often.
That would be a great segment. We should do that. Keep an eye as they race towards the checkered flag in the second of 3 races. Plenty of positions in question at the moment, but one of them that isn't would appear to be Kyle Ridley at the lead. He's just managed to keep that gap steady, seen the drivers behind him tangle amongst each other, make contact, and it's just opened up his lead to just be absolutely consistent, absolutely flow the car around. And it'll take a big mistake from him for anyone to be able to catch him. We saw in qualifying that 0.2 of a second was good enough to cover 10 or 12 cars. The drivers behind him could be quicker, but they'd never be able to pull more than 2 or 3/10 of a second a lap out of him. And there is only 1.5 laps to go at the minute.
Yeah, that's the problem. If there was somebody working with Brodie Watts, you can absolutely guarantee that they would start closing down Kyle, really. But just because he's on his own, it's just a little bit too far back. At the same time, though, Kyle's still going to stick it there. He's still going to be clean. He's still going to be consistent. And he's done so. It's about patience in a Formula V. If you get aggressive with any of the steering wheel movements, if you try and carry too much speed in, we've seen that already a ton of times tonight. It just doesn't work. But have a look at this drive from Caleb Bellac.
He wants to go around the outside of Cam Edwards for 5th, and he's almost going to get sent off into the countryside, but there is a V's width there. Matt Anderson wants to follow that, so Edwards might end up high and dry around the outside. Bellac dives in, pulls the spot up. Not a great exit off this complex, though, for Edwards, and Anderson will be all over him coming towards the start of the final lap of this race.
But have a look at the gap that Bellac's already built. Cam Edwards has got a problem. There's 100% a problem with Cam Edwards. Something is not right. You just saw Matt Anderson just sneaking closer. So that incident earlier on, I think he's going to suffer. I think Anderson should be able to get around him here.
I think Edwards has got it good everywhere except the gear shifts. Lost a lot of time going first, second, third, fourth off the race start. And you saw there again that every time he's got a shift from third to fourth, he's losing just a little bit of that momentum. So Anderson will try to position himself well coming on to the final straight of the race, the Hangar Straight.
There's that gear shift again. He got that one right, so they didn't lose too much momentum. Now it's about when's he going to pull out from Anderson? Does he even try? Does he just accept the point? Sometimes that's even worthwhile.
Can he sell a late dive to the inside? No, he can't, but Edwards might run it a little deep, get it a little off camber. Now Burden and Woodward are battling over third and fourth. Burden's been able to make some great progress. Woodward might have had a little bit of a mistake. Just ahead of them though, Kyle Ridley has the race lead and takes the race win in race number 2 to give him pole for race number 3. He's joined on that podium by Brodie Watts, and it will be Joshua Burden in third. Bellac maybe under just a tiny bit of pressure, but the checkered flag comes up quick on the Exeter club here at Silverstone.
Yeah, phenomenal drive from a number of drivers there, and even all the way back into Franz Esterbauer and Knight. Have a look at this squabbling, though, for 10th through to 13th. There's nothing in this, and then you've got this battle here. This is between Damien Spinks and Ben Breyer at the back end of this one. There's another battle on the racetrack just ahead of these guys.
Always going to be battles all through the field. It's a big field, super close, and it means that you'll look down the timing sheet and they're battling over 15th, 16th, and 17th as well. Ray Oliver, Sam Chapman, and Brendan Nealon's maybe going to sneak one away from Sam Chapman on the final lap here. No driver has had a boring race in any of these races so far.
That's Formula V. That's the best part about Formula V. When you sign up, when you register for Formula V, you're booking yourself in for gangbusters action. The fireworks are going to be going off every single lap of the race, unless your name's Kyle Ridley and you just snuck away to a little bit of a cheeky lead there at one point. Some other drivers have misfortune. You've absolutely got to send it home, and you did that phenomenally.
Let's look at the finishing order from race number 2. Kyle Ridley, Brodie Watts, and Josh Burden on the podium. Kurt Woodward, Caleb Bellac, Cam Edwards, Matt Anderson, Matthew Harriott, Franz Esterbauer, and Glenn Riddell. I think a first and a fifth for Caleb Bellac. He's starting to build some points together there. Just outside of the top 10, you find Lee Partridge, Damien Spinks, Ben Breyer, Trevor Hearn, Ray Oliver, Brendan Nealon, Sam Chapman, Thor Toller, Stephen Butcher, and Sean McKenzie, ending up in 20th place there and only just on the lead lap by the end of all of it. And Cameron Dawes, last driver on the lead lap because there was damage, drive-throughs, etc. for Baker. Rosso, we saw all revs, no drive. Liam Caplice bogged in the gravel, and Keegan Sutton Baker 14 laps down. The drivers get a bit of a minute now before race number 3 comes up, so we'll take the opportunity to thank everyone who's made this championship and the broadcast possible again. And it's Southern Cross Esports back on board in a management role, joined by Motorsports Australia Esports, VRace Experience, Echuca Toyota, and Giant Mandurah. We'll take a 2-minute break here on SimSpeed TV. We come back with race number 3 from the Formula Vee National Esports Cup at Silverstone.
It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day. Race against the clock at a hill climb. Or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.
because dirt racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Moments away from race 3 of round 1 of the Formula Vee National Series. And taking another look again at the rest of the calendar later on in the month at Okayama International Circuit on the full course. Great circuit. Free content on iRacing as well, so everyone has at least a little bit of experience around there. Barber Motorsports Park on the short layout could be very, very interesting, and put on some great racing in IndyCar there not long ago, so I'm sure our Formula V's can do likewise. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, long back straight there, but some challenging blind corners over the Canadian hills. Alton Park Circuit, also free content on iRacing, and very, very well suited to club style racing and these Formula V's. Sandown, we can all look forward to that. So well known in our corner of the world, so well respected, and great to have it recently added to iRacing for us to enjoy. Watkins Glen Classic Boot. What a circuit that is. Really flat out and historic. And the same can be said about Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, which is going to bring us home. So looking forward to that as a championship decider. Well, for race number 3, some penalties being handed out, and Baker and Spinks are not going to be able to start race 3 from their grid positions. They're going to have to start from the pit lane, and it means the grid looks thusly. Ridley and Watts on the front row, and Burden and Woodward, Caleb Bellack and Cam Edwards 5th and 6th. Matt Anderson, Matthew Harriott, Franz Estebao, and Glenn Riddle as our top 10. And this is the finishing order from race number 2. So Partridge and Spinks are 11th and 12th, but Spinks will be starting from the pit lane. Ben Breyer, Trevor Hearn, Ray Oliver, Brendan Nealon, Sam Chapman, and Thor Tuller. The top 2/3 of the field, and the remaining is Stephen Butcher, Sean McKenzie, Cameron Dawes. Tony Baker's going to be starting from pit lane, and James Russo, Liam Caplice, and Matthew Billack be the last drivers on the grid. Again, it's 20 minutes. Again, they have a standing start. They rev and they wait for the green flag to drop. It does. And third place, Burden, does not get away well, but first place, Kyle Ridley, absolutely does. He's walking the field away down to turns 1 and 2, but it's 3 wide for second place, and that has the potential to end poorly on cold tyres for all.
Yeah, but have a look at Caleb Ballack immediately trying to slice, dice, and cut his way through. Car from the background that's going to cover pit lane exit, and that's with our 2 cars just about to come firing out of the lane as well. But have a look at the moves from Ballack on that opening lap there. He's just got aggressive. But look at Ridley immediately starting to show a clean pair of heels. They've got to work together. Oh, he's gone.
So much opportunity for slipstreaming and leapfrogging in the group behind. It will be tough for Ridley to stay ahead if he's able to. And this looks like it would be Sam Chapman around at Chapel and someone else even further off. I think it was poor Liam Caplice stuck in the gravel for the second time in as many races. Up front, Ridley not able to get away from Burden, and Bellack around the outside for second place. And then Brody Watts and Kurt Woodward.
He's just barely in that tow at the moment, so they cannot afford any mistakes, any pushing and shoving. They've got to settle in, or that is going to be gone. And I think there's something around.
Burden's gone around and trying to rejoin at club corner. Set him back, and we didn't exactly catch how it happened, but not a perfect run off the grid. This is Liam Caplice at the inside at Chapel. He gets in hot, and it just snaps on him. And is that a hardware problem?
Oh, that's the end of the race for Liam Caplice. No matter what happened, but I just looked like cold tires, just in there a little bit too hot. Burden was on his own as well.
Is what happened to Burden. Just a tiny hit from behind as the field concertinaed at Vale and Club. This is back on the live pictures. Ridley and Bellac at the lead. And then Watts, Partridge, the field so close in that group between 5th and 25th. And they are 4 wide down the hangar straight as someone, I think Cam Edwards had a slowdown penalty, and the 3 wide pack swallowed him up, and he lost bulk positions in a very, very short order.
Yeah, it's similar to Le Mans on iRacing. You just do not want to run wide at Tetra Rouge on the first lap because that picks you up a slowdown penalty. Look, it is a couple laps in. Another driver attempting to clear a slowdown penalty by the looks of it down the inside curbs.
Kurt Woodward around, and he slows the progress of his own teammates there as well. Further up, Franz Estebauer side by side with Glenn Riddell here in 6th and 7th. Matt Anderson in the lighter blue car just streaking ahead of them. So 2 wide, 2 deep as they work their way through what ought to be flat out turns 1 and 2. Looking for 3 wide with Estebauer as the meat in a bit of a sandwich here. And managed to sort it out.
Yeah, have a look at Ray Oliver, though. He's just not had a good night, has not been able to structure the night, put it together the way that he wants. The battle up front between Bellac and Ridley, they're gone. They're absolutely just gone. They've escalated that pace away and just gone.
Off the road, in the grass, and driving it into the wall. Glenn Riddle, no pressure, but he tried to carry too much speed through the grass, didn't show it the respect it needs, and it has really, really hurt his race from a great position on track.
Yeah, that's not good for Glenn Riddell. I mean, phenomenal season last season, but it's a fresh season. You got to get out there. You got to bank points early. Get a little bit wide on turn in. Pick up the inside. No,
he's wide on the exit. He's on the grass, and he tries to carry too much throttle through the grass. It snaps on him in the direction of the wall.
That's punishing. That's a big cost for a minor error, but I mean that's just you got to pick your spots on the track. We're going to push it very, very hard. This is a pill to swallow, though, Dave.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is going to be to fix up the suspension. I think the left side is very drastically pushed in. This is the leaders, Ridley and Bellac, and we were just looking at Partridge and Brody Watts were 3rd and 4th, maybe trying to work together to close this gap up. Any friend in a time of need is a good friend. So Partridge and Watts don't have to be greatest of buddies ever for their shared interest to really help them cooperate.
I think Matt Anderson's actually going to try and buy in and go with them. I think he's just a fraction too far back at the moment. So the issue that he's got, but that lead group they're disappearing down the road. They've got to get a hunt on now if they really want to start reeling them in. And think about Caleb Bellac. He's been the class of the field here tonight at this Silverstone International layout. Whether or not he can put that together next week at Okayama as well, that's another tough, tricky track. A lot less drafting opportunities, a lot more thinking about how you're going to navigate the corners. So maybe there's a few guys out there now that just start to, test their limits, figure out who they can drive around. And for me, Matt Anderson's been the driver most willing to work with as many drivers as possible. So if I'm Ray Oliver, I'm reading Matt. What can I learn about him here tonight?
He's about to learn something as they go side by side in super close quarters down in towards turn number 1. Estebauer squeezes in the middle there. Ray Oliver comes off looking $1 million as Breyer, Estebauer, Harriet, etc. nearly trip over each other. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact for Harriet as he locks up, and it causes a domino effect, sending 2 cars around.
Anderson unfortunately just got shuffled there. He got put in a really, really poor situation. Estebauer did not want to lift. And, well, in that situation, somebody's got to lift. That then forced Matt to have to lift or end up off the track. and then it just kept escalating again down into the heavy. Have a look at these guys though. Now, they are starting to track down Kyle Ridley and Caleb Bellick, and I think there's an opportunity. Partridge did do the swap draft there. He wasn't ahead at the start of the straight. Brody Watts could be working together.
So this is it from the other angle. Matthew Harriet in orange down the inside, locks it up a little bit, and then it's for all the physics nerds, a Newton's cradle kind of effect there. He puts a little hit on one car that then puts the little hit on the car to the outside of that and sends them both spinning around as he was 3 wide down the inside, just locked it up a little bit. So looking again at third and fourth with 10 laps to go. Can they work together to hunt down the leaders? The answer is that they did pretty much an identical lap to Ridley at the lead, not making any progress at the moment on Ridley and Bellick.
Yeah, they're going to have to really work together hard here. They're going to have to perfect that swap drafting. Maybe test a few different things, see what they can find out, because they've not got long to start working together, or that time is going to elapse. But have a look at the battle pack in behind. It's really picking up. Franz Esteban, he's dipped his toes in the water of sim racing. He's starting to find his feet, and well, he might just be a duck to water in a moment, you know.
Love this view down the Hangar Straight. You see all of the little groups. The battle for first, the battle for third, this battle for fifth, the battle for ninth, the battle for 12th. I've got more fingers on one hand than there are drivers having a lonely race at the moment. Here's Cam Edwards still trying to work his way back up through the field at the inside of Stowe Corner. Hooks the apex well and looks to be clear of doors. No, the doors remains open as he comes towards the inside of the next corner.
That's amazing, Dave. Normally I'm the guy that goes for the pun earlier. That's you tonight. That's a phenomenal one. Yeah, look, I mean, riddle me this. How does Kyle Ridley and Caleb Bellick get out the front? Pace, talent, skill, breaking away at the unique opportunity when it presents itself. Oh,
Wheels
still
tangled
squabbling.
behind, 2 cars off towards the wall, and they're both going to make impact. It's Josh Burden and Brendan Nealon. Almost a replay of what we had seen, I think, last race, where on the exit of the corner, they're just 2 cars lazily tangling wheels in a straight line.
Yeah, that one was significantly odd.
Okay, well, Burden's off track there, but he's back on it now.
And, I mean, he just kept coming over and squeezing him. He thought he was going to get the draft. And I wonder whether or not there wasn't an aero effect there, because neither of those drivers tend to be like that. I think it was Glenn Riddell as well that was involved in that one. Damien Spinks was the other driver, apparently. But, yeah, that's... odd one that we've seen that twice. That makes me actually really think, David, if we've seen it once, okay, once, you know, I can sort of look at it and go, that's probably just a little bit of drivo. But when it happens twice like that, that actually says to me that might have been aero effect, sucking the cars together.
I think there's also a kind of a narrowing of the circuit that you don't perceive, because immediately off the corner you can be on that curbing all good, but by the time of the start finish line, the driver on the outside's got to be off the curbing and onto the rest of the paved bit, and the driver on the inside needs to move a tiny bit further to the right to not close the door on the driver on the outside. Here's Oliver, 5th, 10 positions gained in this race so far. Estabauer and Hearn behind him. Estabauer looking around the outside. Can get a little pinched at the left-hand kink there that then brings them to what's the opposite of a chapel? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure either. Not something pleasant, I don't think. We're going to get 3 wide here. He just goes from one slipstream to the next lane, looks to pull out to lane, and here comes Harriet with plenty of momentum as well to try to follow him through. Rear gets Haley through the very fast Stowe corner where you want to be able to carry your momentum.
And carrying momentum is exactly what it's all about. Really impressed with Trevor Hearn, tonight. The drive from him has actually been really, really exceptional. He started off strong last season and then sort of fell by the wayside a little bit. Started getting tangled up just about every single round from then on with just stuff that he shouldn't have been involved in. And I was disappointed not to see his talent shine through a lot more. Tonight's doing really, really well. Rail was a little bit down, I think, potentially and where he should be tonight. I think he's better than this. This is probably a poor performance from Ray Oliver. So a number of drivers having a little bit here, neither here nor there nights, and Tony Baker as well. I definitely feel this is not Tony's cleanest night. I wonder whether or not there's something going on in the background there for Tony. But yeah, I definitely feel Tony's got a better performance coming his way. We'll have to see in a couple of weeks' time.
Final of 3 races now with just 8 minutes left in it. 6 laps of this short layout at Silverstone called the International layout, but it's not the Grand Prix layout, which you might think would be called the International layout. I'm not sure the naming convention is completely clear, but it's a club one that you do get to see used for British national level and club motorsport. I've seen MX-5s going around on this particular layout. Oh, and Estebauer goes into the side of Ray Oliver. They're stuck together, inseparable, 2 Vs in a pod, if you will.
That's unfortunate because both of those guys were having a reasonable race 3 and what's been a disappointing night for the pair of them. So this will tell a tale. That's an odd one because Estebauer knows he's there. He's going to try and settle it down, get it in there. Does he lock? He's just way too deep. Just a mistake.
And it hurts both of them drastically. I suspect there's damage on for Estebauer. He drops behind Kurt Woodward. Ray Oliver's just ahead of them in 13th now, having lost out to the mega pack that includes 7th through to 12th. That's this group here with Sean McKenzie second in line. Pulling out behind would be Anderson and Edwards. No hint of defense or anything here from Russo, so McKenzie opts to pull out as well. 2 wide, 2 deep towards the next driver in single file. McKenzie goes into 7th. Russo has a big lift on the way in. The drivers behind almost run up him.
Yeah, I think it's just about settling themselves down into where they wanted to be and lining it all back up again. I don't think they're going to catch another pack at this point in time, so 6 minutes left on the clock. Probably a little bit too early to start vying for position. The key factor in this one, I think here at the moment, Dave, is in about 2 minutes' time, I want to be 4th in this group. 2 minutes' time after that, I want to be 2nd, and then poke my nose out at the last possible moment and steal it at the line.
Cam Edwards wants to go 3 wide in towards turn 1, and he scares out Sean McKenzie, and then they're 3 wide behind, and Anderson gets just a little tap. It's starting to get a lot more free-flowing here. The driver's willing to make those more aggressive moves that they wouldn't early in the race. Matt Anderson sits 10th for the moment as Estebauer serves his drive-through penalty, which came through very quickly, but it was probably the most simple incident we've seen tonight. Edwards leads this group onto the straight.
Yeah, so again, interesting to know, where are they pushing hard? If you watch Matt Anderson's wheel work, brake work, throttle noise, everything that was going on there from Matt Anderson, he was being patient, looking after the car, making sure there was no contact made at this point in time. That'll change in about 2 laps time. That'll start, you'll start pushing the boundaries just a little bit more, but it's race management. Set yourself up. There's no reason going racing when all the marbles can just be thrown out of the bag so early. Set yourself up for success. Go for it at the last possible minute. Well, we'll see what he's got available to him this time.
4 more laps to go. The race leader has crossed the start-finish line. That's Caleb Bellack, and he's got Kyle Ridley right behind him. Brody Watts and Lee Partridge have not made any progress on them. In fact, I think they've dropped another half a second back since we last checked in on it. So it's looking like a battle for the win and a battle for a step on the podium is how our top 4 will play out. Trevor Hearn is in 5th with a bit of clean air. Matthew Harriott with a bit of clean air. And then behind them, we still don't know how this is going to go with Edwards, Russo, McKenzie. I think even Matt Anderson could be one to make some progress in this group. He's currently at the very tail there.
Yeah, I've really got it in for Matt Anderson. I hope he actually picks it up. He did a phenomenal job working with Caleb Bellack. And it takes, sometimes you've just got to be that driver that says, hey, in order for us to progress, I've got to bite down, I've got to accept the pain, and I've got to let somebody else lead. He did that phenomenally in race number 2, drove them a long, long way forwards. I think this is his opportunity to shine. I really want to see him take a strong result from this one.
So Russo goes back to the lead of this group. Edwards wants to make sure he only loses one position. He's to the inside of Mackenzie. And interesting effect here, where from that left-hander, you're flat out all the way through. So if you take the shallow exit on Vale, you can go flat out through club and you carry that speed all the way down towards turn 3 as it's effectively flat out through 1 and 2. Oh, and they touch wheels, they turn doors. Touches Mackenzie, who gets spun into the inside wall. They were kind of 3 wide. It's always precarious in moments like that.
That one's going to need a replay. I think it was the car that was just on Mackenzie's outside. I think that might be on doors. Unfortunately, that's just a huge error. Misjudged it slightly, and that's the difficult thing as well too, Dave. Is sometimes when you're looking forward throughout the car, you just can't quite see something. It's just in your blind spot. And I think that's the case here.
So it's then even tough to tell from that angle. Is that the beginning of turning in towards turn 1, or was it a block that happened too late? Because we're very close to the turning point of turn 1.
Well, Mackenzie just didn't. I don't think he expected the movement across in front of him. That's effectively what's triggered all of this. Is actually the car ahead. See that movement right there? It's the guy that was immediately in front, and he's gone. It's not. I don't know. It's necessarily a block. I think it's the move to take his run somewhere, and he's misjudged the overlap by a quarter of a wheel. That's all it is. There's nothing in that. That's what, a few centimeters, 10 centimeters or so? That's how little he's misjudged it. Formula Vee, they say with Formula 1 it goes down to millimeters. It's got to be millimeter perfect racing. I think with Formula Vee you've actually got to have a higher level of accuracy.
2 laps to go, and the brains will be ticking for Kyle Ridley and Caleb Bellack, because only one of them can come away with the final win from Silverstone. Ridley leads, but he knows that's the vulnerable position in this style of racing. 3rd and 4th keep swapping as well. They've got exactly the same game to play amongst themselves. It's 2 mirror image identical fights, one for 1st and 2nd, one for 3rd and 4th. Then at the end of these corners, they will start the final lap, and you better have a game plan.
Have we got enough time for another lap? Yeah, I think we've just barely got the one more lap in us. I thought it was going to be a little bit tight in there for a moment. Keep your eyes on Anderson, Tuller, Cam Edwards, and James Russo. That battle pack is going to be phenomenal in this dying stages. Have a look at them crawling all over each other. I can tell you Ridley leads at the moment, but only just. I think Bellack's about to make his move.
It's the time on the final lap to execute your plan, try to make a move stick, and Bellack just sitting in behind Ridley for the moment, probably thinking about the hanger straight. They've worked their way through turn 3. 4, 5 is the inverted chapel. It's the exit off of here that you want to get well to be able to slipstream up, and Ridley knows it. He moves right. He holds driver's right. Bellack might be able to get enough momentum to go clean around the outside at Stowe. That's going to be his plan, and it is, again, a mirror image for the drivers behind of Watts and Partridge. Here goes Bellack, pulls out. He's going to hold Ridley to the absolute inside, pull outside at the last minute to try to swoop in with big speed around the outside. Do they touch wheels? They get close, but they don't touch. Bellack goes around the outside of Stowe for the race lead. Needs to come back to the left-hand side to defend Vale, and Ridley's not close enough. So long as you can keep it on the road. Caleb Bellack looking for 2 wins from 3 races at Silverstone, and Ridley can't get enough momentum back at him. Ridley a winner again for the 3rd step on the podium. It looks like Watts will hold off Partridge, and your favorite battle packer kicking off as well.
Yeah, and here they come through the final lap. What have they got to show us? Cam Edwards has had a poor night. Sorry, my apologies. That's not even Cam Edwards. I believe that's Lee Partridge and, it's Trevor Hearn and Matthew Harriott kicking it off. The guys in behind them as well. They're going for it. Hammer and tong. Final race of the night. Final lap of the night. And it was all awesome all the way to the line. I think Kyle Ridley made a mistake, though, if I'm going to be honest. If I'm on that last lap, I think I want the momentum line. I think I wanted the outside line down into Stowe. I think Ridley just picked the wrong line. I think he said, look, the natural one, you go to the inside, right? You want to defend that inside line. I think the important one was actually to go the long way around, go the outside lane, hang on to the momentum, because it would have set him up for those final 3 corners, and that was the critical part.
It was close all race, and it was close at the end, just a 10th for Caleb Bellac to win ahead of Kyle Ridley. Brody Watson, Lee Partridge just 2 tenths in it there. Hearn in 5th, then Harriet, Rosso, Edwards, Toller, and Matt Anderson 10th in the final race. And then came Cameron Dawes, Sam Chapman, Ray Oliver, Kurt Woodward, Stephen Butcher, Tony Baker, Ben Brea, Glenn Riddle, Brendan Nealon, and France Estabauer as 20th. Kenzie in 21st, Spinks 22nd, Burden 23rd, and one to forget for Liam Caplices. 2 races in a row ended in the gravel at Silverstone. And to recap, Kyle Ridley, with a 15th place finish in race 1, turned that around to consecutive podiums, a first and a second in race 2 and 3. Caleb Bellac, I think it's fair to say, the man of the night with a win, a 5th, and then a win. Good consistency from Brody Watts, though, 6th, 2nd, and 3rd. So there's lots to digest from those 3 races, and we know it's going to be a close championship all the way through with 7 more rounds. What's the status of our drivers? Come and have a chat with us.
Yeah, I think they're all on their way in. I think we're only missing Bellac at the moment, so it might be better off to start on the bottom and work our way up. I think he's having a few technical dramas at the moment, trying to get to the right place to be interviewed.
How about the race 2 winner then? Kyle Ridley will join us. Race 1 didn't go your way, but you fought back big time in race number 2, and you were right there for race number 3.
Yeah, race 1, as you said, didn't quite go my way, but fought back and made the most of the race 2 and 3.
Do you ever race anything that doesn't have a VW badge on it?
Well, sadly, the Jet is no longer online, but no, I do love the Formula Ford, and I think that's translated well into this. But I don't really drive this car all too much, but tonight, being Silverstone, a track I like, just very good pace, and I was really happy with it.
Well, you were right there amongst it, and you set a great standard for the remaining of the rounds. This layout of Silverstone, not one that you often see all that much, but from the driver's perspective, do you feel like it suited the style of racing of the V's?
Oh yeah, it certainly gave the V's some pack racing. Pack racing in these cars can be a lot of fun, and it's not necessarily about the speed, it's about the smarts about it. But having those few quarters between the straights really gave the drivers to flex their muscles and try and stretch the pack with this corner speed.
Well, congrats on the race 2 win. Congrats on being right there with race winner Bellac in the race 3, and we look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks' time.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a good race with Caleb. It was made him have a little bit of history, so it was really good to have a clean race with him and no contacts. It was good to have.
Awesome. There we had Kyle Ridley covered himself in a little bit of glory in the back half of tonight. Scott, I think we've only really got one more, so why don't you have a chat with Brody Watts?
Hey Brody, an interesting night here with the return of Formula Vee. It's always tough, it's tricky, it's about keeping yourself clean, it's about keeping yourself calm. Look, it was definitely right up there, and I think one of the most difficult nights, but you got race 3 right, you got that nice little battle pack, you got somebody to work with you there. Not quite enough pace to chase down those leading 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit challenging in the first race. I just on my own had a spin, which is never what you want to do. And then, but yeah, Caleb and Kyle they sort of took off, and it was definitely difficult to catch them. We got into a little bit of a rhythm at the end, but it was a little bit too late, and unfortunate to fall behind a little bit. But overall, very, very happy with the result.
In terms of things, really nice consistent results across all 3 of the races. Obviously the reverse grid didn't affect you too much. I think it's one of the key things about this Formula V series that makes it exciting. You've got to work hard in that race too, not only to get aggressive, to get the overtaking moves done, but it also shows the guys that have that real good racecraft. They sense what's a move that they can go for and a move that they can't. What's the secret from your side of things?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I wish I could tell you. I had a lot of issues last season. I had the one lap pace, but then I just found myself in accidents that I didn't need to be in, and it was, it wasn't a one-off, it was a consistent thing. So I've kind of just looked back on that and thought that, I've got to I guess take care of myself a little bit better. And yeah, you're right, you don't need to be going for every pass that comes your way. Sometimes it's a little bit better to hold off and then hopefully, for the greater good, end up a couple of positions ahead instead of the one position. So yeah, it's I think I did that quite well tonight, especially, like I say, compared to last year. Yeah.
Different layout as well, a different format we're actually seeing from this season. Last season we did see a lot of those longer track lengths. This season we're going back to a little bit more of the Formula V roots. We're seeing some of those shorter format tracks, the international layout here. We've got definitely Barber's got the shorter layout. Okayama's probably about the right layout length in terms of what we're going to see for a Formula V. I mean, do you enjoy it's not typical when you join an iRacing that you would be running some of these shorter layouts. So there is actually some learning out there for a lot of these drivers who are used to the bigger layouts when we go to these tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of takes me back a little bit to my my sort of rookie seasons of MX5s on the definitely shortened versions of tracks, which I think is good. The Watkins Glen and stuff like that. It was just a little bit too long. I mean, you're here to race and driving flat out for over a minute straight, it loses its charm pretty quickly. And these shorter layouts, I think they're a good balance of the slipstreaming, but then there's a good challenge in the chicanes and the tighter corners where it really proves the quality of the drivers.
What's it like coming to effectively a cultural home of motorsport in the UK, if you will, in Silverstone? It's somewhere that I think a lot of us grew up watching Formula One motorsport categories. I know British touring car racing was obviously quite popular in the late 90s and whatnot, and it's the newer format of Silverstone. We discussed actually on broadcast that I'm a little bit sad that the old Silverstone went, the new Silverstone. What's your take on a cultural racing icon like this one?
Yeah, the corners are, especially in the Formula V, I'm used to watching the F1 where they're at the corner and it's only been, down the back straight, it's only been 10 seconds, whereas the corners come a lot more slowly, and I found it a little bit difficult to actually find the right braking point in the practice. But no, it's a great circuit, and yeah, I definitely enjoyed the old Silverstone, but there's this layout's quite good as well.
And then finally, mate, your opportunity to thank the sponsors and stuff that make it possible for you.
Yeah, thanks to Rob at 949 for putting together a paint at last minute's notice, which is becoming a bit of a habit. And Cam and Ray, all the other organisers, the Formula Vee Australia, putting together a great series. It's been a great night of racing, so yeah, really appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, and best of luck for the remainder of the season, Brody. It was awesome to see you back on with the performances from the start here tonight.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome. Well, we do have the chance to chat with the double race winner as Caleb Bellack joins us, and you should never trust a commentator's maths, but the back of my envelope says round winner.
Yeah, well, we'll go with that, won't we?
I'm sure from your perspective it sounds good. How do you feel about the racing? And I guess the biggest challenge for you would have been as the race 1 winner, starting 20th on the grid in race number 2.
Well, I knew I had a challenge starting from P20, but I knew I had the pace to get back up there, so it was a matter of working through the field, chipping off one overtake at a time.
Not too many corners around this shortened layout, but if there was one that was presenting a big and consistent challenge, where would it be?
Oh, probably turn 3. Everyone has a different braking marker into there, and you've got to try to do a move every lap, but you don't know where they're going to brake. And
thinking about the action we've just seen, yourself and Kyle Ridley had a very handy little breakaway for the most of that race number 3. When did you start stewing on what move you were going to be able to pull out of the box?
I had to wait till the last lap to see what arose. I was thinking of the whole race of what move I'd do, but never know for certain what you're going to do until it's action time.
I see you live your life a quarter mile at a time, which is a great way to do it. Talk us through the livery then you've got on the car, because there's a lot of black and red and everything else out there. You've gone a very unique direction.
Well, I think I had my purple Pac-Man livery on, which wasn't intended. I put on a different livery, but didn't load for the race, unfortunately.
Well, maybe we'll see you in some different colours in 3 weeks' time at Okayama. Maybe a bit tighter, a bit more technical there than here on the short Grand Prix circuit?
Maybe. I love the tight technical stuff, so we'll have to see how I go.
Absolutely, we will. We look forward to seeing you then.
Yeah, look forward to racing Kyle again, hopefully.
Great to hear from the double race winner, the round winner, and to hear that he enjoyed the racing as much as we enjoyed watching it, because that was a hoot. It's always close and competitive in V's, and it can come down to that final lap and the racecraft, the timing, where to position yourself. Belak pulled it off strong in 2 races, and he leads the way after 1 of 8 rounds of the Formula Vee National Esports Cup. Now, thanks again, of course, go to all of the supporters, and you'll find us again round 2 at the end of the month at Okayama International Circuit on the full course. Broadcast again in all the same places. From myself, David Haynes, from Scott Rankin alongside me, from Jay Kennedy finding all of the replays and all of the action to put on screen. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in 3 weeks' time.
Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today.